How's it? Welcome back to the channel. So here is what is essentially James's grand finale to the book. I mean, it's at least the final chapter in the book before he goes ahead and basically just wraps everything up. And then after covering that next part, I'll go ahead and share my closing thoughts on the book overall. But here, James shares this really unique and awesome technique and approach to lucid dreaming that he basically just came up with completely on his own through exploring the dreaming space. And the extra cool part is it has everything to do with this liminal space that I love so much and talk about all the time on the channel, which is of course hypnagogia. So his technique is called mild meets wild, or MMW. But before we get into the actually, like the steps on how to do it, let's talk a little bit about the differences between wake initiated lucid dreams or wilds and DILDs, which are dream initiated lucid dreams. The skills required for wild techniques are vastly different than those which are necessary for achieving DILDs. The requirements for DILD techniques are nuanced in nature, relying upon conditioning and skills of perception and metacognition. In contrast, wild techniques are more of an offensive approach and have to do with focused resilience and precision. Despite the difference in skill sets, the experiences have no qualitative difference aside from the circumstances of their induction. All right, so now we got that out of the way, let's get into actually how to do this. The success of MMW is based on a person's ability to artificially produce closed-eye visuals that resemble hypnagogic imagery. It is the imagery that occurs when pressing near one's closed eyes, the composition of which is quite intricate and bears a striking resemblance to the more advanced formations of hypnagogic imagery. Now, I would kind of push back on that a bit, but we'll talk about that later. The pressure isn't exactly placed on the eyes, but mostly around them. The most important points to put pressure on are the inner corners of the eyes and between the bottom of the eyes and the bottom of the eye socket. So I'll demonstrate it here in a second, but here he explains how to do it. Place the tip of your index fingers, nails facing up, on the inner corners of your closed eyes. Then move your fingers towards your eyes so that the middle joint of your index fingers rests at or near the outer corners of your eyes. When done correctly, you should feel your eyelashes touch your fingers. What's up, cat man? Touch your fingers between the tip and the middle joints. From this point, gently apply pressure with your fingers towards your eyes so that your fingers can feel both your eyes and the bottom edge of the eye sockets. Then, while still applying gentle pressure, push your fingers towards your nose so that the first joint in your fingers bends back slightly, leaving the tip of your index fingers to rest on the sides of the bridge of your nose. Keep your fingers on the outer edge of your eyes. What do you need? Keep your fingers on the outer edge of your eyes as you slowly move your fingers towards the middle of your face. Eventually, your knuckles will be against the edge of your eyes and your fingers will be nearly touching, but for the small bit of nose skin. As you do this, you should begin to see lights and patterns. So basically, if my cat would just get out the way. See you later, cat man. It should look something like this. And then you push in and you hold it for anywhere from like 30 seconds to a minute. And then you really can start to see imagery with it. To me, it's kind of similar to what I'm sure a lot of you have noticed is if you close your eyes hard and then like rub them like this, you can kind of see lights and patterns behind your closed eyes. So it's something kind of like that. If you have trouble with this, you can try peering into the darkness as you do it. Generally, when you begin seeing the imagery, it can last anywhere from a few seconds to a minute or so. It can vary greatly from person to person and between tries. I have also noticed that it works best if your eyes have not adjusted to darkness. It seems to help to be facing a light source while doing it, which makes the visuals more noticeable despite your eyes being closed. This process tends not to work if you try to do one attempt immediately following another. So that's how you do it. So now we got to add in the other crucial part to this of like, when do you have to do it? So basically, you're going to do this in combination with your other waking life practices, like, during reality checks or saying affirmations and things like that. So he also recommends in here to do it like about 5 times a day and then also right before bed. And so the goal of this is you want to set the intention, to as you're seeing these imagery when you're doing the technique and saying like an affirmation along with it, which is another key point, so he recommends saying something like, when I see this, I will realize I'm dreaming every time you start to see that imagery. And then you want to start to set the the intention in your mind that anytime you see something like this, to have your consciousness come online. And then the really cool part about this is it doesn't have to work like only when you initially fall asleep or something like that. Because what you're really trying to do is build this mental muscle to when you see imagery like that to get lucidly aware, right? So, typically when we first go to sleep, you don't go from stage 1 into REM, so you can't really have a wild anyway. But when you do this correctly, you can set your mind to kick in and get lucid anytime you pass through that stage, and you'll pass through that stage every time as you're entering REM, even later on in the night. So it really can work great at helping you to have, more wilds, or at least, raise the chances of you having one of those more often as you do it. I haven't tried it enough myself to really see any direct results with it, although I have definitely noticed that when you do that technique, you can absolutely see imagery that I would say is like the beginning stages of hypnagogia, not like the more advanced later stages of this. But I'm also kind of weird there. Like, for me, man, my hypnagogic imagery, it's not just like soft patterns or lights or, a starry night sky. It is like full-on imagery. It's like basically the same background thoughts and images, or, thoughts I have in the back of my head, just coming out as like full-on images. Anyway, some other times I found that, I think this could also work for like setting this intention to, when you see something similar like this, to go ahead and get lucid, is, one I shared already. So like, you rub your eyes like this, you can kind of see imagery that's kind of similar to some of the stages of hypnagogia. Also, like blinking really hard can kind of bring on a similar type of visual experience. And then this other one is something I've shared on the channel before, but say like if in the daytime you're lying underneath the curtain and then the wind blows, so you're getting like different amounts of lights shining on your closed eyes. That too can create this kind of imagery that is similar to some of the types of hypnagogic imagery that you can see. Another example would be like using light machines and or mind machines, so like the Casina, the Enkidu, the Pandora Star, or Lucia Light, something like that. So like when those are shining the bright lights at your face, it makes very obvious, visuals behind your closed eyes. So as you're watching that, you could also be setting the intention that next time I see something like this, I'll go ahead and realize I'm dreaming and get lucid. But yeah, that's basically it. So it's a super neat technique, one I definitely want to play around with more. And, big kudos to him for, coming up with such a unique approach. I think it's super cool. So anyway, that'll wrap it up. Until the next video, keep the hypnagogic practice and the lucid dreaming practice legit.